James isn't more of an iconic actor than he is an iconic voice. With talent like that and a career spanning over 6 decades, let's find out just how well this Black Hollywood icon has done for himself. James Earl Jones was born on January 17, 1931, in Arkabutla, Mississippi. His mother, Ruth, was a teacher, and his father, Robert, was a boxer, butler, and chauffeur. After he was born, his father abandoned their family and moved to New York to become an actor, leaving James to be raised by his single mother. His mother struggled for many years to care for him by herself on a single income. She decided to get help from her parents and moved James to Jackson, Michigan. When James was 5, he was being raised full-time by his grandparents on their farm in Michigan. This may not seem like a very dramatic shift, but it had severe effects on James's mental health. He was without his mother and in a completely different environment and wasn't used to his grandparents yet. In the process of this transition to being raised by his grandparents, he developed a strong stutter. The stutter was so bad that he refused to speak at all. He was mute from the first day of school until the middle of his high school years. His English teacher in high school discovered that he was a pretty talented writer and decided to use the writing to motivate James to speak aloud. James enjoyed writing poetry, so his English teacher would give him assignments to read poetry aloud to the class. Over time, James became more confident and spoke more often and more passionately. In just a few years, his speech was completely normal. He turned out to be a better speaker than most people in his class and took that to his advantage when participating in school. He was elected vice president of his class and graduated in 1949. He had good grades in high school and was accepted into the University of Michigan on a pre-med track. While studying, he joined the Reserve Officers Training Corps, a college and university-based officer training program. Since he was doing so well at it, he felt a sense of community and security in the military system. During this conflict between a career in medicine and the military, he decided that he wasn't passionate about being a doctor and switched to a drama major. He thought that he would study drama for fun before fully joining the military and graduating with a Bachelor of Arts. He also reunited with his father during this time, who found fair success as a stage and screen actor in New York. He fully joined the military in 1955, fresh from graduation. His career didn't go the way he expected. He wanted to be commissioned as a second lieutenant. During this wait, he dabbled in acting at the Ramsdale Theater. He worked as a ranger and did a few training courses. He was commissioned as a first lieutenant in Camp Hale of Colorado. He was discharged soon after. With his military career over, he decides to put his university degree to work by pursuing acting in New York just like his father. He studied at the American Theater Wing while doing janitorial work to support himself. His family had reservations about him choosing to become an actor, but he pursued the career nonetheless because he felt that there was really nothing else he could do with himself. In 1955, Jones made his Broadway debut in Elia Kazan's production of The Merchant of Venice. Upon his debut, his distinctive voice became an immediate sensation. In the 1960s, he mostly acted in Shakespeare plays because of this. He played Othello and King Lear, slowly gaining a reputation for his distinct and recognizable voice and acting. In the 1930s and 1940s, Michigan had more subtle Jim Crow laws. This contributed to James developing a complicated relationship with his racial identity. He understood his multiracial and diverse cultural background, whilst also perceiving how that conflicted with his societal and absolutist perception as African American, because of the color of his skin. By the time James was working in the acting industry, he knew that he would only get black man roles that are distinctly made to play a certain character based on his race or be an insignificant part of the screen. Growing up, he claimed his grandmother was the most racist person he had ever met. After playing a lot of classical theater in cinemas, he hoped his acting had attracted a genuine appreciation for his talent outside of his race. In 1964, he made his film debut in a Stanley Kubrick film called Dr. Strangelove. He later found out that Stanley had made comments about casting him to be the black one because he needed one black actor and one white actor. But James is a very indirect person in interviews about race. In an interview with Dick Cavett, he claims that Stanley didn't mean it in the way we think he does, and pivots to explaining that Stanley was a person obsessed with power. Either way, he says that he appreciates that this was the opportunity that got him his first film debut. James has two iconic roles that you probably remember him most from. One of Jones's most iconic roles came in 1977, when he lent his deep, resonant voice to the character of Darth Vader in the groundbreaking film Star Wars. His portrayal of the imposing Sith Lord became an instant cultural phenomenon. The second would be his voice acting as Mufasa in the 1994 The Lion King animation. In addition to his work on stage and screen, Jones has also made significant contributions to the world of literature and education. He has narrated countless audiobooks and documentaries. Over the years, Jones has received numerous accolades and honors for his contributions to the arts, including Tony Awards, Emmy Awards, and a Grammy Award for Best Spoken Word Album. In 2011, he was honored with the prestigious Academy Honorary Award for his lifetime achievements and contributions to the film industry. Remember to click the subscribe button and notification bell to learn the true story behind the iconic voices of Black Hollywood. While James Earl Jones is widely celebrated for his talent and contributions to the entertainment industry, like many public figures, he has faced some criticisms throughout his career. Some critics have pointed out that Jones isn't afraid to speak on Black issues. In fact, he does so very often, but he has an extremely and noticeably avoidant attitude towards the subject matter. In his autobiography, he states, "I am not only African, but I am Cherokee and Choctaw through my maternal grandmother. I am Irish through my maternal grandfather." Contrary to the view of racialists, black and white, a mixed-blood black person is not only black. Critics argue that while Jones's voice is iconic, it often leads to him being cast in roles that could potentially have been voiced by actors of different backgrounds. This criticism ties into discussions about diversity and representation in the entertainment industry. While many admire his activism and advocacy work, others have criticized some of his stances or statements. Like any actor, James Earl Jones has had highs and lows in his career, and some critics have questioned certain roles or projects he has been involved in. When he played Darth Vader, he didn't want to be credited because he believed his voice was just special effects. But by the third movie, they wanted to credit him because his voice was distinctly connected to Darth Vader, and fans wanted to know who he was. A lot of people thought his choice not to consider in-film voice acting as worthy of credibility was misleading. It implies that voice acting is just special effects, and not really acting or a talent that requires effort and deserves credit in a project. In recent years, he has continued working in the Star Wars franchise, and a few side projects like Warning Shot and Coming to America. Although his popularity and prominence haven't declined, his voice has with age. James is now 93 years old, and his voice is slightly different from what it was in his heyday. Some fans of Star Wars don't believe that his voice has the same effect it used to anymore. Although the concern is not unfounded, it's unfair to not account for his age when making criticisms of his performances. In 2022, he signed away his voice rights to Disney, which gives them permission to replicate his voice using AI. They plan to use clips of his voice as Vader in a voice cloning software called Respector to create no lines for Vader in the future Star Wars franchise. After signing away his rights, he promptly retired in September of that year and hasn't live voiced Darth Vader since. James has been married twice. His first marriage was to Julianne Marie, an actress in 1968. The two met while working together on Broadway in the early 1960s. They tied the knot in a union that lasted until 1972. While the exact reasons for their divorce remain private, the demands of their respective careers may have contributed to the strain on their relationship. After his divorce from Julianne Marie, Jones found love again with Cecilia Hart, an actress known for her roles in both theater and television. They met during a production of Danton's Death in 1981. After dating for only a few months, they married in 1982. The couple welcomed a son named Flynn Earl Jones in 1982 and remained together until Cecilia's untimely death in 2016. He had a son with his first wife and named him James III, and he was born in 1952. He also had Flynn Earl Jones, whom he had with his second wife, Cecilia Hart. Flynn was born in 1982, shortly after Jones and Hart were married. Flynn has largely stayed out of the public eye. He has occasionally accompanied his father to events, but he has chosen to live a more private life away from the spotlight. James had an estimated net worth of $40 million at the time of his retirement in September of 2022. Click on this next video to learn more about your favorite Black Hollywood stars and reveal their true characters.